right. Sorry for that, and apology. That is a technical hitch. It happens quite often. All right, so let's get into it. Let me start with you, Mwalimu Sosio. Now that we are here, 12 years down the line, we are getting the 13th year of Devolution. First of all, let me just start by perhaps 1 minute, an opener. What are some of the hits and misses that we have experienced cumulatively in 12 years?
Yeah, cumulatively in 12 years, and I've said time and again, it has reached a time we pause and audit devolution, conduct a thorough audit, and assess and evaluate whether we have achieved the original intention of devolution. You know, devolution was to decentralize certain functions from national to counties, and it's clearly outlined in the schedule in the Constitution. Functions like agriculture, functions like health, functions like water, infrastructure, and quite a number of others. And this was meant to ensure that resources and functions go together, and people in those respective counties implement, execute their development plan, because the project management circle in the devolved units is guided by strong public participation. But we've seen the challenges that we had at the national were also devolved. Things like corruption. We see a lot of corruption, a lot of shoddy deals in tenders and in many things. There's a lot of wastage, and some counties actually are not benefiting whatsoever in terms of significant development aspect. Devolution was to trigger development, but we see much of the resources that goes to the county goes to recurrent and is wasted in other areas, and little is witnessed significantly in education. By the 12th year, Mike, I think the devolved units should even have taken over schools infrastructure development, effectively as it happens in other jurisdictions. Because if you visit other jurisdictions, like say for example, the US, the states and counties, and actually the counties, do a lot of work in terms of education. In terms of education, in those jurisdictions, it is fully, at the basic education level, it is fully funded, fully managed by those units. And they even manage the school transport system, and of high quality in terms of education delivery. And here in Kenya, we still believe the whole responsibility of delivery of basic education, though it's in the schedule of education, is a function of national government. But I believe very strongly infrastructure delivery and other aspects can be done by the devolved units. The other social service that is critical is healthcare. How our healthcare facilities in those devolved units, the dispensaries, which now are supposed to help in the rollout of universal health coverage. Actually, the success of UHC is the architecture of the administration of devolved units. What have they done in terms of modernizing the health centers, equipping those health centers, and employing personnel to run those particular health centers? We've seen doctors, nurses, and medics year in, year out, agitating, and looks like the management of the human resource, the capacity is way too low for the counties. So there's a lot to be done in terms of audit, and to be able to see and project when such can be mitigated, and we have the right intervention measures in place, so that a conference like this one is about addressing the gaps in those particular functions and proposing pragmatic, robust intervention measures with clear timelines, so that our people and the people of Kenya can feel the value of devolution.
Thank you. That's a very good opener. But, Prof, again, today's governance, today's theme is about good governance. That's a sub-theme for today. And every day has a theme. Today is day 1, good governance. Day 2 will be about human rights and social justice. That is on day 2 tomorrow. And then day 3, it's also financing equity and inclusion. That is about the last day. But let's talk about the theme, today's theme. Devolution Conference, I mean, it's about good governance. What do you really make of that theme? He's also talked about some of the devolved units, which is the real backbone of devolution, good governance made closer to Wanjiku.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Yeah.
And I think my brother, Sean, has started it very well. That over the last 12 years, what we should be looking at is first taking stock of the achievements, the progress and the gaps.
Yes.
So that we can sort of go back and look at the Constitution and see whether what was envisioned in the Constitution is what we are doing, as devolved units. Number 2 is about, of course, the functions that were transferred from the national government to the county government, which, of course, are the ones that that would be mentioned: health, water, education, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But when it comes to governance, the key to devolution was bringing governance structures closer to the people.
Yes.
So that we can bring services to Mwananchi at the lowest level structure of governance in the system. But when you look at what is happening, and I think I'm happy that corruption has been mentioned, most of Kenyans do not feel that governance is getting closer to them because of many reasons. One is the requirement of ensuring that there is active citizen participation in the development process that is required to be undertaken by counties. Most of the leaders that we have today, and most of the leaders that we've had since 2013, have, instead of sort of making sure that this is implemented, to ensure that the common citizen gets to understand and to have a feel of the development that is taking place down there based on the structures that have been created. They feel that there is a serious disconnect between them as citizens and the governance structures that we have in most of the counties that we have today. And this has been created by several things, of course, including, number 1, the corruption that we believe is a function, is a sort of a consequence of bad governance. That instead of ensuring that resources are utilized for the benefit of Mwananchi, you realize that most of the devolution resources that we have out there have ended up in the pockets of a few that are in these systems. And what happens with that? Instead of investing those resources in the counties, they take them to Nairobi or they take them out of the country. So at the end of the day, the citizen suffers, because if you come from Wajir, the governor out there or the leaders out there would sort of push the resources or take the resources away from Wajir to Nairobi or to other counties or take them outside the country. I am not advocating for corruption, but if those resources were actually utilized locally, then there will be a feel of development and a feel of resources or money getting closer to Mwananchi. That is a big challenge that we have today. And you see, if you look at the amount of money that has been put into devolution,
almost 3.7 trillion.
Correct. 400 billion shillings every year. And you look at the 1 billion that is set aside for development. You'd ask yourself, I come from Makwene County, where does this 1 billion go to? You see, because you need to see that a billion is not a small amount of money. You need to see a road, you need to see a water tower, you need to see, a classroom or infrastructure in education, dispensaries with medicine. Not dispensaries just by the name. And then we complain very much, as counties, we complain about the national government. Yet the national government has disbursed resources to our leaders to ensure that they do what they're supposed to do to their people. To me, I think we need to relook at the governance structures. We need to look at what exactly is happening. We need to do that assessment as a country to look at the gaps and find ways of sealing these gaps so that we can drive development, more close to the people. And of course, bring these services to the people at that level.
I'm happy that you gentlemen, you've started very well. And there is something you're talking about, that is corruption and mismanagement of resources. And if you look at the front page of the Standard, Prof, you can see 4 gentlemen. Of course, they have got ongoing cases and some of them probably have been dropped and, it's over time. the whole issue of corruption and financial mismanagement is one of the biggest and major problems in most of the counties. But do you really think that the government and all the other agencies who are mandated to tackle corruption, including EACC, we have got the police, the judiciary, is doing enough to cushion Wanjiku from the pilferage of their resources, which is meant for the development? Let me start with you, Mwalimu Sosion.
You know, as a country,
yeah,
if we are driving the transformative agenda, and the president has set the note in terms of real transformation of the country, then we must find a transformative approach to corruption. Unless we do that, then we'll be timing in the same place without moving forward. The country criminal justice system, our legislation, and the penal code should prefer severe punishment to corruption. We must punish corruption as a topmost priority. In fact, set aside everything and design an infrastructure system that punishes corruption promptly, effectively, and timely. Because, you know, when you look at the governance system and the type of activities that go on, and open corruption, in fact, it's not just corruption, it is open stealing and looting of resources. What Professor has alluded to, the flight of resources from counties, out of the counties, to unknown destinations, some even out of the country, is very immoral, completely immoral. That is what devolution was not meant to do. It was not meant to do that way. Resources are supposed to be retained within the counties, circulate within the counties, and stimulate development within the counties. But you see, through official and formal channels and deliberate intention by those in offices, stealing, let's not call it corruption, deliberate stealing, you must be punished. Let me give an example of, we are giving examples of Singapore, Malaysia, and all of them, even China. In those countries, I have my personal experience of visiting several ministries in Malaysia, and this is what we were told. The Sharia laws that operate in that particular country punishes corruption, and punishment is by death. Go to Asian countries. If you are found and implicated in corruption in the morning, in some countries, you will have been processed in court.
By midday,
and then in the evening.
and you will have been punished by 4 p.m. And that is why people avoid corruption in public service. But here we talk of, let us reduce corruption, we are massaging. We are not accepting that. This is a cancer, it's a vice. We must all kill it. And until and unless in our governance system within the country, we deliberately fight corruption, criminalize corruption, and those involved and mentioned should never move anywhere near public offices, but rather be punished. And all proceeds from corruption must be recovered and reverted to the people.
Okay.
Because it belongs to the people, wherever it is, whether it is out of the country, and what belongs to the counties must be recovered and taken back to the counties.
Yeah.
Those who have built homes and magnificent structures in the cities, those buildings should be identified, sold out, and money reverted to the counties.
That really paints a grim picture on what devolution was really meant to achieve. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. Karibu sana. So, Sion talked about, you know, in some countries, you get accused in the morning, by midday, it's a done deal. As a wakili, is that even possible in Kenya? That would mean a serious traveling between court corridors and all that. All right. So let me just get your point. 12 years down the line, before we take a quick break, 12 years down the line, who will be hosting it? Quick hits and misses?
Thank you, Victor, for inviting me, and
Karibu.
thank you, gentlemen, for being on the panel. 12 years for devolution, what I can say is that it's a good measure because it was some set of fresh air into our system. And largely, if you look at, other than the Chapter 4 of our Constitution, the other thing we largely talk about about the 2010 Constitution is devolution. And we have been able to work with this baby. We've been able to nurture it up to where it has reached. There are misses, hits and misses, as we can say. When we started off, we had the likes of Machakos, where we had a very vibrant governor who only seemed to know what devolution was all about. But I'm not sure whether he finished with the same speed he wanted. Then we had Makueni, which almost collapsed, but then later stood out and came out to be one of the strongest counties in terms of governance and in terms of exercising devolution as it was supposed to be exercised. So those are some of the initial county developments which we were able to realize. And then thereafter, we've had a litany of litigation cases in terms of corruption, money lost, and some other very interesting things which we have seen in the counties, which if you dare sit down and listen and follow through, you'll actually be shocked. So this devolution conference, which is happening in Homa Bay, your county,
yes,
it's also one thing we can talk about devolution, because the conference itself realizes the possibility of checks and balances, and even people are able to sit and see how far they have come, and then they're able to know and project where they should be able to be going. And some of the things, when you bring people into a hall, you're able to discuss some of the key issues, like you have raised governance issues, which is a very big problem. Yeah. And then we also have to talk about the issues of the role of the national government in terms of disbursement of resources to the counties, which has been a very big challenge in terms of realization of devolution. We recently had the governors complain about the issue of the monies which are meant to be used for roads being used by the national government. That's one of the biggest misses which we ought to fix, because we need to ensure that we have good infrastructure in the local counties, and even disband some of the national government institutions which are meant to be utilizing resources which are meant to be serving the counties. The other thing which is really I need to say, and it's very sad, is the fact that if you want to be bankrupt or to be broke in this particular government, you need Victor, for example, to resign from here and become a communication expert in Homa Bay. That is the easiest way to get to poverty, in your own hometown. So sometimes the employment structure and what I've highlighted, that they are not able to receive disbursements in good time, leads to employees suffering.
Basically, talk about pending bills.
And then there's also the aspect of pending bills, where we have had even people die out of that, where county governments are totally not paying, and their only excuse is the perpetual issue that, we're not receiving disbursement. Okay. But then other counties have really managed it well, which begs the question, is it the issue of management, or is it the issue of having people in office who have capacity to understand how to spend these resources?
I'll talk about that, because let's talk about capacity deficits in most of the counties, where now there's lack of qualified personnel when it comes to infrastructure, for example, to effectively implement some of these devolved functions, particularly when it comes to the issue like planning, budgeting, and human resources in the county. So let's take a break. When we come back, much more. The president expected there to officially open it today, and actually this morning. So let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. So let's talk about capacity deficits. That, Prof, that really need to talk about some of the counties lacking qualified personnel and, of course, infrastructure to effectively implement some of these devolved functions. I mean, when you look at what's happening in some of the counties, do you think we are still grappling with human resource to fully implement some of these policies that were meant to be taken care of in the counties?
Certainly. I think that one is one of the gaps that my fellow panelists did allude to, that when devolution came into place, there was some level of expertise that was required to make sure that this was fully, the functions that were sort of outlined in there were fully implemented. And certainly part of it was the human resources, human resource infrastructure, because you need to have the infrastructure out there. You need to have the people who have the capacity to drive the kind of development that we need to see in counties. Now, that was not the case, because we needed to prepare our people to the level of understanding what they needed to do. What was done was just to duplicate, what was being done at the national government. And certainly the retooling, the re-engineering of the skills that are required in the various sectors that were developed at that particular time has not been done up to date. And when you look at what is happening out there, when you look at the kind of stuff, and the kind of expertise gaps that we have out there, that will tell you why some of the progress that we expected to have made by now has not been done, that has not happened. And that starts with the governors, because the governors have brought into play the political influence that instead of getting the right people, instead of recruiting the right people or competitively, they end up bringing people who are just their friends, their family members, and so on and so forth. People who do not really understand what they need to do as a people in delivering the agenda to the people in that particular county. We see some of the counties having some level of re-engineering and retooling of skills, reskilling, upskilling of their staff. But there are very few counties who have got on that level, because the levels of the governance systems and the levels of the capacity of the governors that we have at the moment, because the governor is the ultimate lead in ensuring that some of these things are delivered. When you look at the gaps that we have across the various counties, there are counties that are ranked tops. There are others that are never seen anywhere. If you look at the top 10, in many cases, of course, we say that those top 10 are politically instigated. But when you look at those counties that we talk about, there are those counties that we never talk about. Sometimes when I look at that list, the first 10, the first 20, there are counties that appear nowhere. Why? Because we needed to have people who have the capacity to, drive that agenda of development of those counties. Now, what are we supposed to do? You see, part of it, we did talk about education, because education is the foundation of getting the right people into the system. Number two, we did talk about the governance challenges, that instead of bringing somebody who's not qualified, please go for the best if you want your county to get the best. Number three is now the usual reskilling, upskilling, and providing those opportunities for the staff to go through a re-engineering process, because the development needs and concerns are changing every time. And if you're not able to align ourselves with what is happening
and to
with the rest of the
evolve
world,
with the system.
We must evolve with the system, Victor, as you put it. If you do not do that, then you are going to be left behind as a county and as a country, because a county is a foundation of the progress that we want to see in this country. We're talking about the agenda. Look at the agenda of the government, the national government, and go down there and look at the agenda of each of the counties. You see? Now, if you want to move forward, given the kind of function that we have, you need to align your development agenda with the national development agenda. So that we reap big from the national government. Us as a country, when you talk about Vision 2030, we also align ourselves with the global development agenda, Africa 2063, or even the Vision 2030. No, the SDGs, the UN SDGs 2030. We align ourselves so that we can also compete with advanced countries in the world. I will also want to look at what my brother Sachon just said. Off the line, we're talking about, advanced countries, or the Asian tigers, for example. We always give ourselves examples of, we were there 40 years ago, and we are still there, 40 years later. Guys have moved, countries have moved, we are there as poor countries. Why? It is because of the choices that we've made as a country. It's because of the governance gaps and inefficiencies.
Choices we made at the beginning.
Exactly. And that is why we are giving examples.
That is after independence.
We're giving examples and saying, if Sachon is a governor today, and he's not able to run his county well, what would happen is that he and his people, his members of staff in the county, will start leveraging the resources of that county, and instead of using those resources to develop that particular county, instead people would want to go and build in Runda, put their facilities in Karen, or even move the money to Dubai, because everybody wants to live that kind of life. Now, sometimes we would say it's better to put those resources back in the county, so that when we see a magnificent house It is built with the resources
the
of that county. Now, the challenge that we have today is that if you look at 2013, 2022, for example, because I think that is when a lot of money was stolen by those guys who started the devolution process. Those guys who were employed at that particular time, the directors, the CEOs, the ECMs or CECs, as well as the procurement officers, started building these big houses in the village.
But I think we can give it to them because they were learning on the job, and we did not have the robust system like the EACC way back then. It was something new to us. So the system to stop corruption was still weak until we got
they took advantage of that.
As you also comment on that, let's talk about the issue to do with the synergy between the national government and the county governments. That's something is also touched, because that collaboration is quite important. For you to get the resources from the national government and the county government, there must be some sort of synergy.
You know, the general spirit of the Constitution that separates roles of counties and national also provides for collaboration.
Right.
Because both counties and national government are governments of the Republic of Kenya. And that collaboration is key. And it has to be deliberate. And it is domiciled in the character, personality, and intention of the leaders who are elected. If they don't intend to collaborate, then it's going to be a nightmare for the people of that particular county. And if I pick a very good example of Homa Bay County, Governor Gladys Wanga was very intentional from the beginning of collaborating with the national government, and particularly the president, even before the chemistry of Raila Odinga and William Ruto coming together. But Gladys Wanga was very deliberate in building a synergy with the national government. And if you look at the development plan of Gladys Wanga, it replicates the development plan of the president, the pillars on agriculture, housing, health, and MSME. When you looked at the president yesterday, frying fish in very decent beaches along in the Pias and in Homa Bay, then don't think those are magic which happened in a day. It is very thorough collaboration. And so when governors align their plans with those of national government, and there is serious collaboration in delivery, it works well. So I think a good model of seamless collaboration between national and county government is that one of Homa Bay. Look at what they've delivered. Look even at the stadium. Raila Odinga Stadium is a very decent stadium. It didn't mushroom from nowhere. It is about the organic internal collaboration within and a transition from another governance system to a new governance that is more aggressive. Because when you look at the urgency of Gladys Wanga to deliver, this is one of the most aggressive governors. And personally, I didn't expect her to perform to that extent because we were together in the 12th parliament. She was very aggressive. But within 3 years, she has delivered what many governors cannot deliver in 10 years. That tells us that it is possible for all 47 counties to model their development plans, align them with the national government, and collaborate with the national government to be able to deliver. I've just been sharing, you might attend with you, that the development pillar of the president actually touches on almost all the functions of devolution. Because when you look at agriculture, it is devolved. That is pillar number 1. Pillar number 2, MSME, the mamambogas, bodabodas, and the rest. Those are the small enterprises and the cooperatives that are supposed to be promoted by the county government. And when you look at what the president is so intentional in building quality market infrastructure that can provide a very good ecosystem of conducting such small-scale business, because the effect on the microeconomic stability and progress is highly dependent on the great success of MSME. If you look at ICT infrastructure is an enabler for operations at that level.
You know what I'm trying
when
to
you look at housing,
just
when
a
you
minute.
look at
what I'm trying to get from you
UHC,
is there has to be intentionality. you might be a governor, yes, but how intentional are you?
But if you are very busy, if you are a governor,
because the collaboration between
if you are a governor and you are creating frustrations and barriers between collaboration between counties and national, like what I've been seeing, Natembea talking, saying, oh, UHC is dead, this SHA is not working. Now then the question begs, you are the governor, and it is your responsibility to ensure that healthcare system works in your county.
Allow me to ask you,
what are you doing intentionally to ensure that there is
Can we talk about
collaboration?
Regional inequalities? This goes to all of you. Regional inequalities. Some of the counties would actually say that, you know, because they don't belong closer to the capital, the far-flung. I don't know whether Kisii or Nyamira is What about the regional inequalities, Wakili? Because there is no reason why somebody would say because we are far away from the capital, then therefore we don't need to get this. Because devolved units must function regardless.
Yes, I would want to fully agree with you, and let me start with my good county of Nyamira. I think if you can talk of marginalization, that is the epicenter of marginalization.
What are you talking about?
Because you can actually not trace any county government project for the last, whatever years which we have been having.
I hope they're listening and watching.
I mean, it's not a secret, but what you're saying is true. We have seen counties like, if you currently go to our good county of Turkana, you might imagine, people think that Turkana is just in the bush, but it has one of the best infrastructures as we speak than any other marginalized county. Mandera itself, I think they have been there and I've seen serious development which has been able to be exercised. Waji itself was able to get its first tarmac under devolution.
Just to mention, the deputy governor of Machakos, of Mandera was here.
Yes.
And said that there is free education in Mandera County. Would you imagine that?
Yes, those are
free
some
education.
of the gains which you can actually say that devolution has been able to deliver.
Yeah.
But as my fellow panelists have been able to highlight, there has to be a very intimate relationship between the national government and the county government for you to be able to deliver. The challenge we have is that some of the devolved units will want to go it alone, and that becomes a very big challenge. To just also highlight a point which Sociola has been able to highlight, that when a governor complains about SHA not working, then you ask him, begs the question, what are you doing about it? Because we're able to see Makueni implement free healthcare before even this county government thing started working. They were every member of Makueni County was able, they even did an hospital, was able to experience free healthcare. So that is a governor who does not understand what his role is. So when we see agriculture failing, we are not seeing any tangible agricultural product or projects happening like Makueni did, as I highlighted earlier. They did an aggregated kind of factory. They did a milk factory from county funds. And then you get to wonder, what happens with the rest of these counties? Much as you say that money does not come, what happens to the rest of you? So it's about the capacity of the governor and the leadership of the governor, which is being offered. Some of the governors who are put in place, you realize that they do not know their second name in terms of what they're supposed to do, not literally. So that is what we're talking about, that every time you put in place a governor, you need to know what is the foundation of this governor? Yes. What are his policies?
Yes.
You vote them on policies. And then it's upon the governor, once they get into office, to be able to synergize with the national government to be able to deliver his agenda or her agenda. We've seen the counties like Kirinyaga, which I used to go before devolution and after devolution, especially when Waiguru came in, she was able to synergize with the national government, and Kirinyaga right now is a very different county. I think when we're talking about governance, I would want to go with the fact, given the example of Waiguru and Wanga, that women are really scoring in terms of delivering for the people, in terms of governance, not to also foreshadow the aspect of what we talked about, what I talked about Makueni, which was able to also implement very good governance structures, which the current governor has also been able to pick from and be able to push forward. So those are some of the things which we need to be able to look at and harness from, so that we can be able to deliver for our people. Some counties never had the issue, for example, the issue of healthcare. Some counties never had basic infrastructure, but under devolution, we've been able to see, much as we've been changing, been able to see very good infrastructure taken to the counties. So the issue is capacity, which we were talking about. How do we bring in this capacity to actually maximize these opportunities? Because we don't want to have a city scan which does not work because of power. You know, those are some of the small things which the county should be able to move in and be able to ensure that those things work. So the other thing which we also need to look at is education, as it were. Education is also another very important aspect which the lower class level, of course the national government deals with the upper education, but the lower class, especially the small kids, we need to have enough. And you know, that is where education starts.
Sosion is here, will help us understand that, where we have the bottlenecks to fully implement
some
that.
of those bottlenecks needs to be, neutered so that we can have all Kenyan kids enjoy. I'm not sure where Kenya, being one of the highly milk producing countries, we are not giving milk to these kids just to attract them to school.
What's happening?
So those are some of the things which we are talking about. Then let me talk about the last.
Wakili is missing.
Let me highlight one of the last things before I finish. The aspect of when we talk about issues to do with the governance. We need to talk about the role of county assemblies. We have seen one too many cases of impeachments, and that delays development, and that causes confusion, that causes panic. Some county assemblies have been able to hold governors to a chokehold that they cannot be able to deliver, so that they are scared. And especially if a governor is not a person who is able to work with the people well, then you realize that that is a loss. We have seen what is happening in Meru. We have seen what happened to Waititu, and some of the things to do with even Nairobi, where the county government. But then there is also some good highlights from the legal perspective, that even if you leave office, you still can be followed. We have the case of Waititu, whereby competently you see the court was able to exercise with good proof their right of I think that's the first case of ensuring that whatever is presented to the court, if it's presented well, then the court does its
We can all agree that corruption is expensive.
It's
at the end of the
costly.
day. It will follow you no matter what. You talked about political interference, because some of the governors, you know, you are either hounded out of office by the MCAs because of political interest and interference and all that. But, Prof, you can also talk about that, but also include the issue of the spatial plans of the counties, all right? A county will have a very good blueprint, whatever they want to deliver, and then you find a governor serves for 5 years. He is defeated the next round of election, and all the programs that he or she started is left dropped. Then another governor will also come with those. So you get what I'm saying?
I get you.
Yeah.
You know, I think Wakili, I'm just going to build on what Wakili has shared. One, when it comes to marginalization, that concept is a concept that that applies to people who want to be marginalized. Because we did talk about Gladys Wanga in Homa Bay, who is deliberately working with the national government, working directly with the president. And every governor in this country has that space to directly talk to the president of Kenya and ask for any support. The president is always available for that kind of conversation. Because for him to deliver on the 5-point agenda, he must work with all these counties to ensure that that development gets to the people. Now, some of the governors are not interested in doing that. Why? Because of politics. And that politics applies very well from where I come from. In fact, I come from Mokweni. So when we talk about Mokweni, talk to me, because that is home. We have marginalized ourselves deliberately, because we are told we don't want to get this development from this president. Let us wait for one man to be president and then get that development that time. And that narrative has been driven for the longest time possible. That even 15 years actually. You know, that even when the president approached, when the president approached Baba, he also approached Kalonzo and said, told Kalonzo, you know, come with Baba, let us work together to deliver the people of Kenya.
How did this happen?
You know, the thing is, because we believe.
You're talking
so the challenge.
We talk in the open.
The challenge with this is that.
In the open.
He said that wait until I become president. That is when I'm going to work my people. And then we have been dragged into this, nonsense for far too long, that our people believe that it is until our man becomes the president that we'll get the kind of development that we want. If today my governor in Makueni calls the president, it would be summoned by the party and told, please, you are not supposed to work with Kenya Kwanza. You are supposed to work for me, yet that man doesn't have any resources to bring to the people. The challenge with that is, when we finished our political process in 2022, people were supposed to get back to business and work for the people until 2027.
Formally.
Once it gets to 2027, let everybody go to wherever they want to go, get into the political process, because we are a democratic nation. Now, the challenge that we have is that now we have been drawn into a narrative that does not help us as a community. And when you look at the disbursement that has been done by the national government, every county gets their own money. I don't think there's any county that would say that since 2013, I have not gotten my 6 billion. So when you tell me that Nyamira has not seen development, I think first we blame, as you put it, the governor and his leadership, including the county assembly, who are not able to, do not have the capacity to put the right frameworks in the system.
What about the Wanjiku from Nyamira?
All those, we are the ones to blame.
Okay, you have a role.
At the end, if we do what...
that's what I'm doing.
If we take this,
civic education.
we take what Ossion says in that example. If we work with the president is going to make sure that you get what you deserve. But if you say that we wait, then of course, if the president is not welcome, why would you put resources in a place where people are saying that please don't come to a place, we are waiting for a man to be the president of Kenya. Now finally is about the spatial planning. And that is a challenge both at national level and also at all levels of governance. That, when I come in as a governor, when I find that Ossion was my predecessor, and he started something, I don't want to build his name, because politics is about our local politics. It's just too local. You don't want to build his legacy. I want to build my own legacy. And that is a challenge, because you leave too many ghost projects out there. Which is wrong.
Just a bit, Prof. Is it possible for a county to have a block blueprint that it doesn't matter who is going to come to the office, all right? So if you're going to work on education, for example,
you work on a model
exactly.
But you see, when you give examples of these advanced countries, if you go to China, they don't work on a 5 years development plan. They work for they have 100 years development year, which is broken down to 10, 20. So you cannot go outside that development plan. But for us, even our manifestos are 5 years. So if I'm not in office after 5 years, and if I'm not able to complete my project, then I leave it. And when the solution comes after me, he says, no, I don't want to do this in a letter, because he's thinking about himself, not about the other person.
Is he itching to comment on that?
Yes, I think Vision 2030 is something that this country must get back to. That was an excellent master plan. And I still believe even government is still working within framework of Vision 2030. But we don't revive the civic education to teach our people. Because the Vision 2030 has 3 key pillars: the social pillar, economic pillar, and political pillar. And the political pillar is very clear that we must engage in politics based on issues, not personalities. Pivoting back, because we have a development plan that by 2030, Kenya should produce the most competitive human resource in education sector. And there is a framework to achieve that. So we cannot start a program that is outside Vision 2030. And as a country, as we retire Vision 2030 and do an evaluation of the extent of the achievement, we will have to start a Vision 2050, for example, so that political parties and individuals gunning for offices at all levels will develop their manifestos and development plans aligned to Vision 2030. And I dare say Kenya Kwanza plan, it is called the plan, is aligned to Vision 2030. It is aligned to the SDG, the UN goals. So we must align to the local plans and the global development framework. Now, pivoting back to what we've heard, he talked about milk. Yeah, it was you who talked about milk. We must also develop a web of network, of links, of these development programs. If you want to promote milk industry, then you must create a consumption line of milk.
Let's talk about agriculture in general.
And one of them is also school milk and all that. So that you have to align the value chains and aggregation of those goods and even the market together, accompanied by reasonable prices. And when you look at the Kenya Kwanza master plan, there was a strategy of ensuring that farmers get value for what they do. So I think there's a lot that goes on. Rather than developing agriculture as a standalone program, you must link it to other industries as well. Then lastly...
The director says that we're out of time. But I want to give you 1 minute to respond to this. What should we expect now as we head to the next year, not 5 years, next year of devolution, God willing, until probably we meet again, talking about another devolution next year?
I believe Homa Bay is a learning forum. It's a good model. A lot has been done. And that synergy of working collaboration between county and national within a proper development plan in a shorter time frame can be delivered. All other counties should be able to deliver. An issue that has been raised here is marginalization and inequalities. This one is caused not by resources. It is caused not by the national government, but it is caused by poor leadership. And that is what needs to be addressed. So fundamentally, even the quality of leaders who are elected to the county assembly, it is time professors and senior managers and the top notch in society are elected to those particular counties, so that then we have a super high quality management leadership system within the assembly, together with transparent and honest governance. Then we'll be able to deliver. Let me tell you, by 2030, if devolution can work, we can transform the country.
Pick it up.
For me, the most important thing that we need to look into is the seamless engagement between counties and the national government, and alignment of our development plans at county level with the national government. Because once you do that, you are sure that resources will flow from the national government to the county governments, and the development that is going to be sort of achieved is going to be aligned.
We can't ignore this.
Aligned with that. And the challenge is that we need to pull away from the politics from the development process. That when it comes to development, after this political process that we go through, let the national government deliberately work with all the counties, and let all the governors deliberately reach out to the President of Kenya to ensure that we align our development in the course of that 5 years process. Let us also have this long-term perspective, that instead of thinking of a manifesto that goes for 5 years, let us sit down and say, it doesn't matter from which party I come from, a political party. Let me sort of align what I am going to do with what the national government is doing. Because as Soshona said, the national government of the Kenya Kwanza government, in the plan that we developed, we were involved in that process.
Oh, really?
Was comprehensive enough that it dealt more with the Wanjiku, the common citizen. And that is why when you talk about SMEs, we are talking about everybody at the bottom to try to build our industries from the bottom up. Until we do that, we'll just be talking about these narratives that Kenya should have been Singapore, should have been this and this. Yet we are not being able to put the right structures in place, and we are not interested, politically, to make sure that we get our people the development that they deserve.
1 minute, learned friend.
Thank you.
Or we are not learned.
Thank you, Victor. I would want to just quickly mention some few things. Looking forward,
yes.
I expect that the issue of agriculture, we should be able to optimize through county aggregated agricultural processing zones, which was started by Moses Kuria. Apparently it was abandoned. That is a very key pillar in terms of improving agriculture. Then secondly, we need to institutionalize regional development. If we can be able to tap into those, even my own county government, which has not been doing anything, if projects are put in place which are regional, we will end up benefiting something out of devolution, and because of the perspectives. And even the bigger the region, the better, because we're able to even allocate the kind of projects which goes into what region. That will also be able to help. The other aspect is the role of political parties, as my fellow panelists have said. Issues of governance have been affected by the politicians or political parties domineering. That if you are part of my squad, you should not be able to collaborate with the other one. That affects governance, and that can be able to be dealt with if we come up with very clear strategic plan. And then lastly, let me talk about intergenerational, which is a sustainable development goal, which we need to ensure that whatever developments we have started today should be able to benefit the next government or the next generation of people. That's where we need to ensure that whatever project started today needs to be finalized so that we can be able to develop counties wholesomely, and as a country will be able to be developed.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is Gibson Gisore. That was good enough. MSMI discussion was so good. So we have to wrap it up there. We just have to say that the president is going to officially open that conference today in Homa Bay, and today's theme is about good governance, and tomorrow is about human rights and social justice, and finally on day 4 it will about financing, equity and inclusion. That will be wrapping up the conference in Homa Bay. Gibson Gisore, Wakili, thank you so much for coming to the show. Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, who is a professor and economist as well from KAIST. Please send our greetings. And of course, Sosion. Wilson Sosion, former NAT Secretary and nominated member of parliament. My name is Victor Lo. Educator. Thank you for watching. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.